Gene Valentino's GrassRoots podcast. He tells the truth. He tries to get information out there to make sure people make good, informed decisions.
I'm Gene Valentino, and I approve this message.
Trump won, but we know the real fight starts now. Congress needs a champion to move the MAGA agenda forward.
I'm Gene Valentino. Like Donald Trump and Elon Musk, I'm not a politician. I'm a businessman and innovator. When I'm elected, I'll put you, the American people, first. We'll abolish federal income taxes. We'll slash the budget and eliminate whole government departments. We'll send every illegal immigrant packing. My message to DC is simple: lead, follow, or get out of the way.
All right, guys, welcome back to Tactically Inappropriate, the interviews. So now we're with the District 1 candidate, Gene Valentino. Gene, how are you doing?
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for coming. We had Matt Gaetz on earlier, and he told us what he's doing now, why he wasn't coming back for the seat, and what he was looking forward to. And he said we need some new blood, and sometimes you do need some new blood. And we're interested to find out what your take is for the district, how you feel about gun rights, and what you're going to do differently than anybody else that's in this race. So, Gene, tell us a little bit about yourself just to start.
Well, sure. Thank you for having me. First on Matt Gaetz. One of the reasons I'm running is to fill Matt Gaetz's shoes on something he did very well. Matt is an interesting person, and you either love him or you hate him. And the fact of the matter is he fell on the sword more than once for Donald Trump. He was there to protect him. He showed concern for Donald Trump. He watched his backside, for lack of a better term. He was there to defend the principles, the policies, the platforms of the Trump administration. And frankly, he was there when others weren't. And I commend him for that. You may not like his style at time. It may not be something that appeals to you. But you know what? I don't care. He's working for the citizens. And the goal is to get something done for the people. Right?
We love Matt's style.
Yeah. Oh, well, good.
He yells at the rhinos. It's a lot of fun.
I love it.
Right.
I mean, it's better than going out to the movies. Is Matt on tonight? Let's watch this.
Right. It is. When we had him on, we were talking about, I'm pretty sure his face was on a box of Wheaties at some point in the last 2 months. So he's been everywhere. So, all right, we got some questions for you. So first off, this is a gun podcast. We're gun guys. We run gun companies. Kyle's a big advocate for the Second Amendment, works for Texas gun rights right now, coming here to work with us. So how are you going to protect the Second Amendment? Well, first off, how do you feel about citizens owning machine guns? First question we got for you.
Well, but just to say, let me answer it this way. The Second Amendment is absolute. When amendments are brought forward to the corpus of the Constitution, the amendments to the Constitution are by definition the boundaries of the law. The Constitution, if you want to change the amendment, that's another thing. But absent doing that, the amendment itself is the full boundary and corpus of the law, meaning that nothing else in law should exist except the Second Amendment itself. In fact, all 27 amendments, the same rule applies. Many people misunderstand that. So when states come in to try to wiggle on issues of background checks or concealed carry rules or what's a legitimate firearm and what's not to mention automatic versus semi-automatic, to me is an overstep. There should be no regulation other than the confines of the Second Amendment. Said differently, there's no place in state and local law to manage, and that includes background checks at the local level. I have 14 firearms myself, from a very small little miniature gun from my wife all the way up to the new AP5 I just finished, semi-automatic. Now, if I wanted it to be automatic, I think I should be entitled to have that automatic. But I can't get it without going through some hoops on that special permit process. Okay, I'm dealing with the regulation. I'm going into Congress to fight this battle to make sure that the Second Amendment remains pure and unadulterated, which means don't screw with it at the state and local level.
Okay, so when you say at the state and local level, so are you okay with regulations at the federal level?
No, that's a good point. The regulation, there's only one regulation. That's the Second Amendment.
Okay.
Okay?
Does that mean you're for no background checks whatsoever?
That's correct.
Okay.
So, Gene, I want to ask you, if you were to be elected, how would you preserve the Second Amendment in Congress? What steps would you take to pass more pro-gun legislation, and how would you fight for the Second Amendment in the Capitol?
2 weeks ago, I was on Capitol Hill at the Capitol Hill Club, where I met with the Gun Owners Association.
I love that you didn't say the NRA. I love it was the Gun Owners Association.
No.
Much better. That's a good step.
Starting to like you, Gene.
Okay, am I out of trouble yet? Am I okay?
Yeah.
Paddling in the right direction.
You're
Keep
paddling
going.
in the right direction. Absolutely.
I got Jessica back there. I got four
Okay.
pretty strong guys that I'm worried about. Jessica's my bodyguard. I just want you to know that.
Jessica's scaring me over there. She's been quiet. Gets me a little worried.
How would I fight it? The bottom line is, I said this to the Gun Owners Association. I says, look, let's create a pathway to make sure we don't piss off people in the process. You got to know when to use a feather. You got to know when to use the hammer, right? We're deliberating as we make our way through Congress, the House Ways and Means Committee, and the other subcommittees. We have to make sure we are in good stead. So we're going to politically dance to make sure that they understand that there's bigger fish to fry. Donald Trump has a major agenda of things we got to address, including the border and the fentanyl and the mass deportations. The last thing we need to worry about right now is background checks and regulations on firearms, which our Constitution says we're legally entitled to carry. So to answer your question let's convince the people who don't agree with us to get on board with a process of proof. Now, I don't have a problem with a convicted felon, okay? Someone who has violated the principles of many other laws of our nation. I think there's some restriction that should be on that felon for access to any firearm. That's just me.
My problem with that is, are they rehabilitated or not? And my view, and you don't have to have the same view as me, a lot of people don't. My view in that aspect is that these guys, they're saying they've served their time, they're back out on the street, and they're rehabilitated. So if they're not rehabilitated, they shouldn't be on the street to begin with.
Okay, let me tell you what you get with Gene Valentino.
Let's go.
So sell me on your idea. Okay, so you just brought up a point there that I don't want to overlook. If you're telling me that the person who might have been inappropriately charged, just as Mr. Rittenhouse almost was,
Right.
is all of a sudden a convicted felon at cross purposes with a good judicial justice system, then not only should he be entitled to carry a gun, but the system failed him in the deliberation of justice. So it's a give and take, isn't it? We've got to make sure. Sell me on the idea that so when we create the law or modify the law, that it's not absolute. The key word is absolute. It's not absolute that every single person who's a convicted felon be denied the right to carry it again in the future. But don't you agree with me that maybe we can meet in the middle, that if he was a convicted felon, he should have some process of recovery?
Go ahead, Kyle.
So, Gene, the Constitution is very clear when it lays out. Is there anywhere in there that says a convicted felon is prohibited from owning a firearm? I know you were just talking that the Second Amendment is the law and that's the only thing that should be enforced. Is there anywhere in there that mentions felons not being able to?
Well, your point is made, isn't it? I mean, there is none. And so therefore, my first point remains the right point. That if there's no other law in place, if it's not within the definition of the Second Amendment, then there is no entitlement to regulate or restrict the use of a gun.
The problem with regulating felons, violent felons, any felons not being able to own a firearm is the fact that the only way you can regulate that is with a background check. There's no possible way to, and I'm in the gun business and we do background checks all the time. We do the process. So I know how the process works. And the only way to know if someone is a convicted felon is to run a background check on them. The problem I have is people are like, well, violent criminals are going to get back out on the street. They're going to slip through the cracks. Why are you violating my rights as a law-abiding citizen, my Second Amendment rights, because a violent criminal got back out on the streets? Why do I have to jump through hoops to exercise my Second Amendment rights? And that's the problem. Everybody's really worried about safety all the time. Well, we got to be safe. We got to be careful. Freedom comes at a cost. It really does.
Well, just the other day we saw
people die more from motor vehicle collisions each year than they do from guns.
Oh,
and
that's
a
true.
Fact. It's a proven statistic. Why aren't we talking about banning vehicles if we're in the business of protecting people and preserving life?
Well, that's true. You could make the same stretch of an analogy that a vehicle is a weapon too. Then, and therefore, why not? Why not?
I mean,
you can go crazy with this.
Can be deemed as a deadly weapon.
The best government is less government.
It is
less authority and control over your rights and entitlements. I don't know how else to say it. The only thing I would say is that we got bigger fish to fry. This nation.
So abolish the ATF.
Pardon me?
Abolish the ATF.
Oh my words! What are you singing music to my ear all of a sudden? I can't believe it. Absolutely. There's a few things you asked me about my agenda. We started off because of guns and was the major issue, but we have in this panhandle 30% fixed income. A lot of them are retired military, our military service folks, and many of them I'm sure are your customers. The real truth is that those poor vets need more protection. And the Veterans Administration system needs a hard look at what they're doing. I got buddies of mine who are doctors that work at the VA. I mean, they're putting in 12, 14-hour days, months straight at a time. The poor veteran is like a vagabond backed up in the lobby trying to see a doctor for hours, getting their tests. Is this how we're treating our veterans that gave their lives, that gave their limbs to us to protect this nation? And they come here and they're on the frickin' back burner in treatment on health. And we've got illegal immigrants getting paid cash to sit on the couch eating bombs, taking their credit card and the cellular phone. We got it backwards. I'm so excited. I was on the phone last week with a friend of mine, Tom Homan, former acting ICE director. He was on my podcast twice. We became good friends, and he supports me in this race for Congress.
So how do you fix the veteran situation? What are your ideas to actually fix the veteran situation?
And this ties into Donald Trump's agenda. I support the Donald Trump agenda. So here's the deal. You're going to do what's necessary to give parity and balance in the veteran system of medical care to that which you and I presumably have outside of the veteran system. That means they aren't disadvantaged in terms of testing, wellness checks, and proper diagnoses for care. People going in because they have something wrong with them have to wait 2 months just to get a test done for the diagnosis. They may be dead by then. And the most important thing that ties in as extension to that, guys, veteran suicide.
Right.
We've got way too many veterans dying, over 22 per day.
But how do we fix that?
We fix it by using the best tool we've got. I do have a plan for that. Okay. As your congressman, I am going to put in place a recovery plan for the veteran through the Veterans Administration. If the Veterans Administration doesn't handle it, I've got a plan as to how it will be handled. The veteran must be brought mainstreamed, come out of tent city, come out of drug and alcohol abuse, and become part of the system and care about this nation. It's the same vet that used to tell his sons and daughters, come on, come join us and get involved in the military with me, like I did, like your grandfather did. Today, son, do me a favor. Why don't you go study AI or computer technology and find another pathway?
That's true. I have a lot of veteran friends that are in that side. I would never tell my son or daughter to join the military.
I am so sad to hear that.
Right.
Because I came out of a generation where in the early 70s, my good buddies, if they didn't come back dead, some of them came back pretty screwed up.
Right.
And during that time, they're coming off a plane from Vietnam and being spat upon by the likes of a Jane Fonda is to me over the top. And ever since then, the Vietnam vet was special to me. But I think we corrected our bad behavior on that since the Vietnam era. But let's just say the Veterans Administration system, when I was your county commissioner here, I worked with Congressman Jeff Miller to get that VA established here in Pensacola. And when we did that, I came unglued because we only got a half a loaf. We got a medical facility that was an outpatient care type facility, but it wasn't full 24/7 emergency care with diagnosis.
So what's your plan? And the VA here is I got a lot of friends that have a lot of complaints with the VA here.
Okay, so
what's your plan to fix it?
Specific plan is two-part. We got to work in concert with Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. I'm looking for savings. We save here, we spend here. So I'm looking to get through a plan of savings where I can shift the burden of dollars back into what I'd call gentrification, the revitalization of the poor vet. The best salesman the veterans has to bring in new recruits is the veteran. I don't want to hear. Say again?
How do you physically help them? What steps do you go to actually rehabilitating them?
Yeah,
I experienced that personally. Okay, I'll share something that I don't normally share. I'm a recovered alcoholic. I've been sober for 21 years. And when thank you. When I go into an AA meeting, I could have a judge or a lawyer on one side of me. I could have a Skid Row bum on the other side of me, and we're listening to the same message. And the message is a spiritual one based on recovery. And if I didn't have that spiritual program of recovery in place, I wouldn't have been your county commissioner 10, 14 years ago. But I would use that kind of system, to answer your question, I would use that kind of system to help gentrify that poor soul and mainstream him again. Now, I can't help him. One basic rule, I can't help you if you don't want to help yourself, right? Sure. There's a certain amount of, I can only help you so much. If you want to die and kill yourself, have a ball. But I'm here to help you if you want to recover.
So what specific legislation would you try to get through to help the veterans in
a specific
or just veterans in general,
there's two parts.
not just this area?
Yeah, we're all on the same page that we agree that there is a problem, and I think we agree that there needs to be a solution for it.
So I've talked to it from the doctor delivery provider side at the VA. I've talked to it from the patient side. And I've talked to rehab and wellness facilities that have tears in their eyes, grown men crying because their best buddy just put a 9mm up their mouth.
Happens quite often.
This is over the top. So you eat the elephant from a few sides at the same time, is what I'm saying. From the recovery side, you deal with the veteran and you turn him into a salesman that helps bring in the new generation of enlistees into the United States military with pride and honor. You turn around and use some of that money to rehab and fix the very buildings.
What money are you speaking of?
The Defense Department has in Florida alone, in the VA, I have through an independent group already qualified $450 million of waste that exists in Florida alone. So it must be billions nationwide.
Right.
$450 million alone of mismanaged overspending, redundancy in process, duplicative efforts to trying to get that patient through the system. There's inefficiencies that exist because of the lack of cooperation, if you will, between different agencies and vendor groups that need to consolidate. I came out of a technology business that succeeded because the technology integrated with other technologies. I know firsthand how to get down into the weeds and look at the back end of the system of how a patient is processed in the system. There is redundancies of paperwork and electronic management information systems that need not exist. I could spend another hour just getting it into it with you, because one of my companies I used to own was Collector Solutions, and we wrote software that integrated with disparate different major billing entities such as tax collectors, water utility authorities. And so being able to be elastic enough to get into those different management information software is the same thinking that applies to the VA as it relates to streamlining the process. If you streamline the process, I've got more time for staff to help that poor 14-hour-a-day doctor care for more patients. And that it's a ripple effect, as you see.
So basically, you're saying that we just need to find the waste, spend that wasteful, use that extra money, and streamline the process of the VA. Is there any specific legislation that you would try to file that would do any of that? Is there
expedite or enact?
It's my name. I just I've got a file at home, and it's called the Veteran Recovery Act. And the Veteran Recovery Act is something I've already taught. I've put calls into Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene, by the way, who went up to the detention facilities with Matt Gaetz when those alleged illegal protesters were on Capitol Hill on January 6th. They were all inappropriately, unfortunately detained, and only recently now a pathway for them getting released. I got off the subject, but Marjorie Taylor Greene, on behalf of Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, is looking at on the House side what Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are going to do on the Doge side under.
Sure.
So to answer your question, through Marjorie Taylor Greene and some other House Ways and Means committees, there will be an effort on my part to find the rights, where to take my concept and my solution, and from within what agency do I go to execute? Do I go straight to the VA, which, by the way, Jeff Miller used to be head of? Or do I go to some other agency that's allocating money into the VA? Is there another protocol I should be looking at with the veterans?
What about, Gene, if this is a bill you're truly introduced in getting legislative, you're truly interested in getting introduced, why not filing the bill if you are elected with everything you want laid out on it, but not compromising on what you have laid out on it, getting it past committee, getting it past everything, but forcing a roll call vote, even if you don't know if you're going to win that bill, just to see who you need to put political pressure on so you can get them to change that voting.
Okay, no problem. Now I understand where you're going. The answer is yes. I mean,
get a lay of the land to figure out where everybody stands on it.
If we can ride on 4 different pathways at the same time to get the solution underway, I'll be happy to do that. I'm not. Look, I don't have to be right.
Compromising in politics gets absolutely nowhere.
Yeah. So one of the things I liked most about Matt Gaetz is that he didn't, did he? He stood on his own. He stood on his own turf.
Pissed a lot of people off.
I pissed a lot of people off when I was county commissioner.
Right.
I wasn't in it for a popularity contest I wasn't a career path politician. I came out of the business sector and made my money. Then I went into politics. I'm going to do that again. I just have, but to answer Kyle's question, I think the right approach is what I said before. You got to know when to use a feather, and you got to know when to use the chainsaw. And the issue is when who I'm dealing with, parallel paths, I'm wide open. In fact, I don't need to be right. I need to get it fixed. If my way is wrong, educate me. I'm wide open. I'm listening. But I've got to take this to the floor and get other people to buy in, right? I mean, 400.
Yeah, but the first step is getting that roll call vote so you can put political pressure, because you want to know who your friends and enemies are.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
You want to know who's going to vote with you because you have those people.
Yeah, well, give me January 28th. You just vote for me. Hurry up and become a resident. Vote for me January 28th. You get my butt in there, and then I'll be glad to follow your marching orders on what I need to do to win that, because I think it's a serious issue.
So let's ask this. Let's say you're elected. Day one, what is your number one issue, your number one priority on day one?
Top dead center of your to-do list.
Yep. There are 2 or 3 of them in parallel. I think, like Donald Trump says, you can chew and walk at the same time. The bottom line is reinstate that border.
I don't think that's going to be an issue. There's going to be so many congressmen that are pushing for that. I don't think
it's already underway. As you're
right.
Correct. In fact, it's already underway. As I mentioned earlier, I spoke to Tom Homan, and he said to me, "Listen, Gene, if you know anybody that wants to get back into ICE with us, let us know." I know some folks that actually left ICE and Border Patrol work because of the Biden administration. They were demoralized and left. Now I said to 2 or 3 of them recently, "Here's Tom's number. Call him up. He told me to send him your way. Send you to him to re-enlist, re-up." I can see a movement now of people coming back online to want to serve this nation that walked away from this nation thinking it was failing. So you asked me a question, what's on your list? I still believe the border and protecting the national security of our border comes first.
Okay.
In parallel with it is the deep state swamp that Mr. Trump has been talking about. This, to me, is not just about elected officials. This is about a bureaucratic regime, guys, that goes down 4 or 5 decades of bureaucrats working in Washington. Oh, here comes a new Congressman Valentino. He'll be here a few years. We'll blow him out. We'll just tolerate it and work around him. Oh, no. Now, those bureaucrats who are sitting in those seats, and Donald Trump has said it, and I support it, they got to do an enema on that place, guys. They got to go down 4 or 5 levels and extricate those bad actors, some of whom were controlling your rights. Do you remember the Chevron decision a few weeks ago? The Chevron decision said to DEP, "You've overreached with your authority in the way you're regulating. Back off." It was a big win for the Chevron company. It's what's happening under the new Supreme Court and under the new administration. The overreach of the agencies of government has gone too far. And we didn't even discuss education, but the shutting down of education at the national level is okay with me too, and letting it reside at the state level.
So the problem and what we see is when a new congressman gets in, we know exactly what happens. Me and Kyle both have friends in Washington that have been there. I worked in Washington for a little while. Yes, sir.
That explains so much, Chris.
Yeah, I worked for Robert Ederholt in Congress when I was in Alabama for just a little while. So I know what goes on there. What happens is when a new congressman comes in, there's a lot of pressure that gets put on them. One, they try to get you in a situation so they can blackmail you. 100%. They try to bribe you. They try to see what's going, what they can get you on, get some blackmail on you. If you don't fall for that, what happens after that is they blackball you. They don't let you pass any legislation. They don't let you bring up any legislation.
Who's they?
The establishment.
The establishment right now is the deep state. And under the Democrat control.
It's not just Democrats.
Well, there's a rhino group. The Mitch McConnells haven't helped Rick Scott out any. I'll give you that.
Mitch McConnell is one of the biggest establishment players up there. And what happens is
I would say a majority of them aren't true conservatives.
Right. And if leadership comes at you and tells you to back off of this or stop this, and you don't listen to them, they won't put you in committee. They won't give you any seats. They won't let you represent your district very well. We see that all the time. They'll put you on crappy assignments, crappy committees, and that's what happens.
That's correct.
How do you combat that?
Well, I started the conversation. I wish you had the chance to know me. I was very successful in business. I was on several boards. I am on several boards of directors. And I was the CEO of a company that took from nothing up to $350 million and sold it 4 years ago. To answer your question, it's what I meant when I said you got to know when to use a feather and when to use a hammer or a chainsaw. The master stroke of genius lies in the guy named Donald Trump. That is how you do it, to answer your question. He knows when to call you out, even embarrass you, take you on in public, insult you with vile names, which many of the wives don't absolutely like. But you know what? He was successful. He had to dislodge an institution. I plan to do the same.
Gene,
just to finish my sentence, I will not succumb. You can't own me. I said that when I was commissioner locally. All the downtown crowd said to me, well, now, Les, commissioner, if you want to be commissioner, look, I need you to do this, this, and this, and we've got a few $1,000 here for you for your campaign. Hold on, I said. Hold on. Sell me on your idea with passion, with the facts, and do it hard. Let me hear your points. And I'll be the best dog in the fight you ever have had, and it won't cost you a dime. But don't try to sell me, don't try to control me or use me. And I'll tell you, gentlemen, Matt Gaetz had that problem, and so did Gene Valentino when he was county commissioner.
And what we saw...
You are correct. The people will come at you when they feel they can't control you. This is a shortcoming in a constitutional republic, and we need barriers and penalties in place when people are pushed to act for an individual self-serving gain.
What kind of barriers?
I would suggest a constitutional amendment that for the first time deals with penalties for wrongdoing. We've got 27 amendments to this Constitution that in some way, shape, or form deal with rights, entitlements, privilege, protection. But none of those 27 amendments deals with a person who does you wrong. Who's going to go after Nancy Pelosi for misusing her stock investment strategy from votes she makes on the House floor, and the next thing you know, she's been invested into or out of certain companies?
So would you make it illegal to do any kind of trading at that level?
It's an absolute conflict of interest. The answer is yes. Okay. Absolutely.
Would you actually file that bill? Because no one. Why? How come no one's actually pushed that?
Yeah, no one has done it up to this point.
Yeah,
right.
They haven't pushed term limits until recently either, right? So, I mean, let's eat that elephant one bite at a time. I think we got to do that term limit thing. So I'm 71 years of age. I'm not going to be a career politician. 2-3 terms. What's that? 4 to 6 years.
Right.
That's enough. Let me set it up like Matt Gaetz did, and with the same philosophy, and hand off like a baton in a relay race, hand off to the next qualified candidate.
I'm with you on term limits.
That's just one point.
Sure.
I think we all are on term limits.
I don't think the problem is everybody is always talking about term limits, but no one. How come we never get that through? It always gets squashed. It never comes up for a vote.
Yeah.
Chris, that's a paycheck. What are you talking about?
Right.
Well, anybody using an elected, my campaign is being run primarily on my own money because I do not want to. You'll check my finance reports. You'll see that these campaigns can run up to $2 million for a congressional race. And that money's coming out of my pocket. I am not going to allow myself to be swayed. And by the way, kudos again to Matt Gaetz. He wouldn't allow certain PAC money to be used to influence him. He held the ground. He was on neutral ground in that. I give him credit for that. And I wish him well on his new career at OAN. That's where I understand he's heading.
Yeah, he's got his own show there.
Yeah.
The Matt Gaetz show. Should be good.
But, to your first point, I think we need the 28th Amendment to the Constitution, which puts penalties in place if a congressman or woman does not balance a budget. If a congressman or woman uses his influence and authority or insight over his legislative process, what's called fiduciary capacity.
Sure.
If he does something within his fiduciary capacity and then calls up the broker, hey, Charlie, buy an extra 1,000 shares of NVIDIA.
Go short on NVIDIA.
You go short on it. Yeah, exactly. Or Bitcoin or whatever your poison.
Yeah, but how do you regulate that? Even I mean, you can't. How do you know that he called his buddy and told him he needs to go short on this or go hard on this? I mean, it's obvious with Nancy Pelosi as her husband's trading. There's actually financial groups that follow everything that he does.
Heck, there's a thing where you can pay to have a politician's trades as your trades,
right?
So that you can gain, and they're doing quite well in financial gain on that.
Right.
Just remember, gentlemen, it was James Clapper and John Brennan, CIA and NSA, and National Intelligence Service, two leaders who convinced 51 other intelligence officers that Donald Trump was colluding with Russia, and that he was using, and it was on Hunter Biden's laptop, and that the Hunter Biden laptop was a Russian hoax,
right,
and made up. And the only guy that stepped up in the House of Representatives was Matt Gaetz with a drive in his hands, going like this in front of one of the people, I think it was in the FBI, denying that the Hunter Biden laptop ever existed. And he said, here is the copy on the C drive, folks, of all of the stuff related to Russian collusion. Mr. Speaker, I enter this into evidence, he said. And that is what I'm talking about. The bad actors who are abusing their privilege that you and I, if you give me the privilege of being your congressman, I expect you to hold my feet to the coals. But you're not going to have a hard time because I think I've already shown you I'm going to be pretty damn transparent. You need to know what, and I'm going to use you as you check on me. I'm going to use you to help get the message out when I think someone's doing wrong, because it can't be just about me going up against the tsunami coming at me. I'm going to need your help fighting that fight.
Absolutely. There's no way that if you actually go there and fight the fight, then you will, because they're going to come out with every single
every pitchfork.
They're going to come up with anything that you've ever done, anyone you've ever looked at wrong, and they've done that with Matt over and over and over again. And people ask me all the time, since I know Matt very well, they ask me, well, is it true? What they're saying is true? I was like, if it was true, they would have already they would have brought charges. They would have gotten him. They would have gotten everything public, and they never have. So
no, that's right.
It's all speculation.
It's all speculation. Well, it's all made up. Yeah. So that's what I say. So whoever gets in there is going to need our help if they're truly going to go in there and clean house.
Yes, sir.
Now, Gene, we're running short on time. I wish we had 2 hours with you.
My request of you.
Yes, sir.
If I have the privilege, and I plan to have the privilege to be your congressman, will you invite me back and keep me in check and ask me?
I'm going to be texting you about once a week, and
definitely that's
you're
a good
gonna
start.
Trust me, you're gonna wish you never gave me yourself
at your office.
Yeah, right.
Kyle, you're more than welcome. I'd love to see you in person.
You probably won't like me too much after that.
Well, at least let me say, I hope.
Let you go. I want to ask you one question. The one question I've been wanting to ask is, why should people vote for you over the Trump endorsed candidate?
Same question I wanted to ask. So good.
I represent the people with a proven track record. Number one, I live in the district. Number two, I have a proven record of success for the people in this area. Number three, I have a desire to fix the problem Mr. Petronis created. He is was chief financial officer of the state of Florida, and under his jurisdiction, 100% control over the insurance industry. We have an insurance crisis in Florida.
We do. Absolutely.
I don't care if you're in Key West. I don't care if you're in Jacksonville. I don't care if you're in Pensacola. Everybody's talking about an insurance crisis on the business and personal side. The problem has to do.
Prices in Florida.
Pardon me?
What's that?
I said, don't even get me started on medical bill prices.
Thank you. I happen to know a little bit about it.
You'll find out about the home insurance crisis we have real soon.
I happen to know a little bit
It's
about
already
it.
covered under my lease.
I happen to know a little bit about it because before I came to Pensacola 35 years ago, I was an instructor in the insurance department for the licensing courses for the new agents coming in. My earlier days the trade I knew very well was insurance. I was pretty good at it. And so I helped the rookies get licensed, but I also had an insight on insurance that I don't think anybody I've seen coming through the door has. I have a solution for the insurance crisis in Florida that Mr. Patronis created. It was Donald Trump in March of 2023, who was, DeSantis was still his opponent at that time. And when DeSantis was his opponent for president, it was Trump that said to DeSantis and Patronis, you've created an obscene scam in the insurance industry and a crisis that is global in nature, and you should be ashamed of yourself. It was Donald Trump who accused Patronis of malfeasance on the job here in Florida. And now you'll have to ask Donald Trump, because I don't understand why. I think this was something that happened at a staff level.
That was going to be my next question.
He knew where we were going with that.
I understand. Why would he endorse it?
Look, I still love Donald Trump, and he gets 110% my support because I believe in his policies. Principles before personalities. And Donald Trump is on target and has saved this nation. He did so. He saved the Republican Party. He saved this nation in this election. There's only one other guy I have in this generation that we're talking with, and that's Ronald Reagan. I'd like to see a new Mount Rushmore somewhere in some canyon somewhere, separate from the existing Mount Rushmore, that it has two figures, Trump and Reagan, because they saved the Republican conservative initiative in this nation, and I submit, they saved democracy and this constitutional republic.
Now, I'll agree with you with Trump. On Reagan, I'm going to have to disagree. He's been so bad on gun control that I can't. Oh my God, I can't agree with you on Reagan. He's part of the problem.
Here comes the fire hose.
We're going to let him pass on that one.
There's a lot of Republicans that'll disagree and don't understand exactly what Reagan did.
What all Reagan did.
Reagan economics on a different level.
Reagan economics is great.
Each one of us had our own little areas of scorecard. And Reagan was good on the. Pardon me?
I wasn't born.
Yeah. kind of makes my point. Makes my point.
Gene, before we go, I got to ask you about one thing. You guys did a town hall down in Navarre last week. I wasn't able to go. I was with Kyle and the guys. We were at Demo Ranch's range day, having a lot more fun than you guys were having, shooting machine guns. But everyone, all the candidates showed up except for Jimmy Patronis.
Yeah.
Since he doesn't actually live in the district, he's going to have to move over. He's going to have to lease a place 20 miles from where he actually lives to run. And then there's a town hall that you guys all showed up to. You're all going. How did it make you feel that he phoned it in and then didn't take any questions once he got there?
It was, he alleges he was on a limited time anyway, and I think the Republican Party's putting this together. We're trying to accommodate them. I commend them for trying to accommodate him. Look, the law says you don't have to live in the district.
Right.
You go talk to the people in the 4 counties of this district and tell you how they feel about it.
There's a lot upset. I'm
here for 35 years. I'm on the ground. I know the turf. I know the roads. I know the people. I know the issues. We touched on about 30% of my plan. I look forward to a longer discussion with you where I can lay out a true plan. Do I plan to get 100% of it through Congress? Well, I wish I could,
right.
But I'm like Kyle was suggesting, I'm going to have to find ways of getting this thing, getting alliances, getting consensus. I've got to buy into some other people's ideas.
The vinegar method works really well for that, by the way.
What's that?
The vinegar method works very well for getting those issues passed.
Educate that. What's that?
The vinegar method?
I don't know it.
Don't be nice to them. Double down, double down, double down. Political pressure and make their entire world spin up against them.
So,
well, okay, yeah, and I won't be a long-term politician, but I don't want to be. I'll do, like I said, 4 to 6 years.
4 to 6 years. That's it.
So that's normal. So, but
I like to remind politicians that they work for us and they're going to do what we say one way or the other.
And let that be the point to your earlier question. I work for the people in this district. He's being used as a political pawn in a swap meet of patronizing political jobs as sort of a trade deal. Jimmy Patronis needs to tear up his resignation, get back with Mr. DeSantis, get back in the seat as CFO of this state and fix the insurance crisis. And if he doesn't, I will. It'll be done through the revocation or modification of the McCarran-Ferguson Act, which is another 10-minute conversation, where the federal government pushed regulation of insurance onto the states, all 50 states. It just so happens the way it's underwritten, statutory reserves and actuarial issues, adverse selection, is so much a problem in Florida as compared to other states. Now, California's a close second with earthquakes and mudslides, but and forest fires. And other areas of the nation have other issues. We need a nationalized insurance policy. No, I'm not in favor of Obamacare, but that's different. I'm talking about a national pool of money to handle the claim. So when you file your claim, your rate doesn't go up 700, your premium doesn't go up 700%. If they didn't cancel you. Instead, it might have gone up 4 to 6%, like the national flood insurance policy. Flood insurance is the only exception in the entire industry. It's a national policy. It's funded by all policyholders of the United States of America. So the impact of you filing a claim for flood is not impactful in the fund that exists. Your claim is paid, you're not abusing the system, your rate may go up 2 to 4%, but it's not like it goes up 700% or that they cancel you, like what happens 80% of the time in Florida.
So you want to nationalize medical insurance?
Nationalize the underwriting and statutory reserve funds for all insurance.
Wouldn't that add another tax?
No, in fact, it reduces tax. This is called the law of large numbers. This is a bigger pool. The bigger the pool, the lower the risk threshold in underwriting and reserves. The state under McCarran-Ferguson right now controls the reserves at the state level. And as the problem with that is, it's Florida. Even though we got 25 million people, we're getting hurricanes and tornadoes and floods and windstorm. Why, the state of Florida had to step in and create citizens insurance, a quasi private public insurance company to handle windstorm.
Gene, and we're running short on time, but I can't let this, I need an answer on this. So we've nationalized a lot of things. The VA's nationalized. When you get in, see how that's working. Right. When you get into the Department of Education, for example, are you not concerned if you nationalize insurance that way that the federal government's going to screw it up just like they do with everything else?
That's
Social Security, anything else.
Yeah,
right?
That's a good question. That's a very good question. The answer is it can be. But here's what I know. It's really screwed up now in the state of Florida and in 49 other states, because of the way they're handling it. I have a system to let the states still have the control on underwriting, statutory reserves, licensing, and bad behavior oversight. Fine, let that exist at the state level like they do in real estate. But in the concept of fund, in the concept of money, the bigger the pool, the lower the risk.
I understand that. I understand exactly where you're coming from. It sounds great, but anything going to the federal level scares me
Yeah.
Very much so all the time.
We started the conversation saying less government is better.
Right, absolutely.
But I do think there's a place for streamlining, like the Department of Transportation. There's standard rules about what the concrete is between going from Florida over to Alabama. It's not like Alabama can come in and say, I don't like the way Florida's building their highway. We're going to use a different kind of asphalt or concrete. No, there's a national standard. It's called the National Highway System. And it's run across the entire country. The same. I'm a pilot. I fly an airplane. By the way, those drones is a topic for another day.
I would love to have you back on to talk about that. That would be fun.
That would be a separate interview.
That would be, yeah, that'd be a little more fun, I think.
I know I've run over, so thank you.
Okay.
I thank you for your time. I'm Gene Valentino, and I'm running for United States Congress, Matt Gaetz' district. He's vacating District 1, and I'd like to be your congressman. I don't need the job. I want the job, and I'm in the district. I've been here 35 years. I know the character, the people, and the issues. I'm best able to handle it. I come out of the corporate world, so I know how to manage people and when to use the feather and when to use the chainsaw. Just call me Donald Trump.
Gene, are these policies on your website?
Yes, thank you for saying that. Go to valentinoforcongress.com. And there you'll see my top 5 policies. If you'd like to see all of my thinking, there's a link there to GeneValentino.com, which is where I do show my Newsmax and Fox News interviews and all the other stuff I do on podcasting. Also on the top toolbar, it says Gino's Second Bill of Rights. The Second Bill of Rights I created has 11 more amendments to the Constitution, a little tongue-in-cheek. One addresses a definition of what an American citizen is. One addresses how you become an American citizen. One addresses the bad behavior we talked about earlier of elected officials abusing their fiduciary capacity for personal gain. One of them addresses the border. Okay, and so if you go there and study that, I would welcome an email back to me. You click respond here if you want. And I would love input. It ain't about me, it's about we. I've thrown it out there. I'm probably 30-40% wrong on some stuff, and I really do hope you come forward to give me some input.
If you guys can't get a hold of Gene that way, his personal number is 850. No, I'm just kidding.
My personal number is 850-384-2055.
Oh, wow.
And you feel free to call me anytime.
Oh, wow.
If I don't answer the phone, I might be talking to you.
That's a good possibility.
Gene, thank you so much for coming on our show. We appreciate your time. It was great meeting you.
Appreciate it.
And we will be in touch, definitely. If you win, we will... Yeah, we'll definitely.
You know what we could do? You know what I would like? And I was going to do it on my podcast, but we can simulcast it maybe, is to do sort of a week in review and sort of a 30-minute, a little tighter, maybe 15 to 30 minutes. I could simulcast from Washington or Pensacola if I'm home and give you sort of a... I did it when I was commissioner. I called it Coffee with the Commissioner. I'd have coffee shops around the district, and we go out to the different coffee shops, and people caught up with me every week. We did it twice a week and rotated through different coffee shops. Let's do it in the technology world of today and streaming. Let's do it on a simulcast between my podcast system and yours, and let's agree to a weekly update.
Be a lot of fun. I like it.
We can have some fun.
We can call it Kyle Keeps Gene Accountable.
Kyle's brought Milo out, so he's going to steal the show. We're going to have a go. All right, guys. That's it. Gene Valentino for District 1 congressional seat. So you
Thanks
guys
for
go check
having
it out.
Thank you for joining us.
I appreciate you guys. God bless America. Let's get this thing turned around.
So we interviewed legitimate candidates for Matt Gaetz' seat. So we didn't interview guys that just have not a chance in hell. There's like 9 people running for this spot. This would have been a 5.5 hour.
3 of them will get 5 votes apiece.
Right.
But the 4 that we had featured.
The 3
the 3 that we talked to and the 4th that we talked at.
Okay, 2 of them will have some pretty good votes. 3 of them will have some pretty good votes.
And then Petronas, look, there's a lot of people out there endorsing him, but they're establishment politicians. I have a real problem with what this guy is standing for and what he's doing right now because, yeah, he got endorsed by Trump, but do you guys think Trump actually called the guy himself?
I think a low-level staffer probably told Trump who to endorse on that.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the case, right? And then this guy's going to literally hide in his basement, not answer any questions, and he doesn't even live in the district. I keep hearing, oh, I know what's great for the Florida Panhandle. Not for District 1, you don't, because you don't live here. I hate when people move to an area just to run for office. And this guy's going to move like 20 miles. He's going to rent a house somewhere so he can say he lives in the district. By the time, if he does get elected, by the time he takes office, he'll live 20 miles inside the district. But let's think about this. So a representative has to do more than just vote on federal laws. They actually, they get money allocated for their district. They get resources allocated for their district. This guy owns businesses in another district. When he's up there lobbying for you, when he's up there doing things at a federal level, do you think he's going to care about District 1 or the district that he actually grew up in and he actually has a business in?
The one that benefits his pocketbook is going to be the one that gets the benefit from him.
Yeah, and he's getting endorsements from all these freaking establishment politicians. Of course, you get Michelle Salzman. She's such a freaking joke, dude. She came out and endorsed this guy. There's been Sheriff Johnson endorsed him. Like he was called. Somebody called and told him like, "Hey, go endorse Jimmy Patronis because he's the Trump guy."
Trump said he's good to go.
So this guy will answer the phone call for all these establishment politicians, but he won't talk to the public. He won't talk to any of his constituents. And the problem I have is if he's this hard to get a hold of when he's campaigning and he won't answer any questions now, imagine when he's actually in office and you need something from this guy.
Trying to do what we elected him to do.
And you can say anything you want about Matt Gaetz, but his staffer and Matt were always available.
All over the suppressors taking forever to get approved.
I think we got Matt on the day before we even the day we talked about it. We texted him and we got him on the next day.
Please don't fall for this. Hey, I got endorsed by Trump. Do we want Trump to go around and appoint all of our representatives?
Nope. I want to say in it.
That's essentially what's going on right here. He's just going to appoint this guy. Are we going to let this guy get away with this? I'm either voting for Joel or I'm voting for Valentino. I'm not sure which way I'm going to go yet.
I've known Joel a long time, but what Valentino had to say really resonated.
I really didn't think I was going to like him. I thought he was just going to be like an old politician.
I was thinking it was going to be an old FUD. He was just going to, get up there and hem-haw around it. And no, what he had to say struck true for me. So
and he's very intelligent. He was a very intelligent individual. Joel, Joel, he gets politician-y.
He does.
From time to time. But Joel has been very good for the Second Amendment in the state of Florida. Like very, very, you can say a lot of things about Joel. Joel Rubman, by the way, y'all saw the interview with him. But Joel has stood up for the Second Amendment. He's filed bills that were pro-Second Amendment that no one else would file. He's made speeches about it. He's stood up to leadership about it. He's done a lot of things there. So I don't have anything bad to say about Joel except he's goofy.
He got that black fingernail polish thing going on.
Well, whatever.
He swears that was a one-time thing.
Yeah,
he did tell us he wasn't a transvestite.
He was willing to come on the show and admit that.
He thinks he's a rock star. He's in a band and everything. He thinks he's a rock star. Guys, just for me, look into Joel Rubman. Look into Gene Valentino. Those are my two options, 100%. Those guys we're going to be able to get a hold of those guys. Those guys are going to do what they say they're going to do. They've both proved that so far. All right, guys, vote your conscience. Actually pay attention. See what's happening. This is a very big election. We need a representative that will actually represent us. I'm going to go ahead and say really look hard at Joel Rubman and Gene Valentino. Taylor, you endorsing anybody?
I don't mind coming out and say, based on the conversation that I had with Gene Valentino, unless something insane happens between now and the election, I'm voting for Gene.
I gotta have some conversations with Joel.
Yeah.
I need to have Joel's been a good guy. Like we've, as a state representative,
Joel
he's
gave
done
a lot
everything.
Gene gave very businessman-like answers, which I can appreciate and I can relate to. Joel gave very politician answers.
I know.
And
yes, that's true.
It was very well presented, very well delivered, but it felt rehearsed instead of, okay, he asked that, I'm going to pull this out of my pocket and here's my response.
I'd never met Gene before.
Never.
He didn't even know who Kyle was when he came on.
Like,
it was like, who's that? He was like, oh, okay. So Gene came onto our podcast not having a clue what he was walking into. And he also just came on so he could get out and meet the constituents. So it was great. He had no clue that this was going to get out to hundreds of thousands of people, right? And I mean, we put him through the ringer, and he did a pretty. He impressed me.
He held his own. He did a good job.
He really did do it. He did a great job. Kyle, are you just from interviews? Are you endorsing anybody?
So Gene is probably the person I would have to vote for. Valentino. That's who I'm going to be voting for when I move down there.
The interviews, vote your conscience, do your research.
Don't vote for that guy.
January 28th, go out and vote, do your civic duty.
And make informed decisions.
This is how you can make a change.
Absolutely. Have a great one.